Hi, this is Emmy at the Startup Blog. I have gone to school several times and I have several degrees. I have a degree, an undergraduate degree in political science and art history, and I have a doctorate degree in law, and I've studied advanced studies in EU law. And then I've got design courses I've taken and writing courses and all that stuff. So I have a full experience with all of the different areas of university, formal education, and the opportunities available. So we're going to talk about that today. My personal experience. So for university, I think I told you before, I graduated early from high school because I was like, can't be around these people. So I went and I worked, and then I came to Europe and I traveled, and before doing any of that, I applied to universities. And you have a guidance counselor at school who tries to help you. But for me, I had no guidance from my parents because neither one had gone to university. But my parents had told me, oh, we will pay for a university, don't worry about it. So I didn't take the cost into consideration, like how much it would cost for my undergraduate. I just applied for schools. And I applied. My parents wanted me, because my sister had died, my parents wanted me to be close to them, which I understood, and I didn't have a problem with that. I didn't have like any specific place that I wanted to be, and I didn't have anything specific that I wanted to study at that point in my life. My parents wanted me to be a doctor, and I thought, I'll be a doctor because that's what my parents wanted me to be. And being the oldest child, I was really into pleasing my parents. I picked a university. I looked at universities that would fit with where my parents wanted to live because they were moving to Atlanta. I looked around Atlanta. I'm like, where can I go to school that would fit my needs and the needs of my parents and school and all that stuff. And I decided to apply for Emory, which is a small school in Atlanta. It has a good reputation, and I got in. Early admittance, so I didn't have to worry about it because I was going to go to Europe and I wanted to have all that finished before I left. I was very much a planner and an organizer from an early age. So I had all of that planned, and then I went to Europe and I came back and I went to university. After that first year at Emory, my parents decided not to pay for school anymore. Not because of me, but my father was an entrepreneur, and he decided to use the money that was set aside for my education to pay for a new business. As soon as my parents told me this, I called up a family friend up in Wisconsin, said I need a job. He's like, okay, come on up, I'll give you a job. And I had a job. And so I went and found an apartment, I had a job, and within a couple weeks I was settled in Wisconsin, working and living a regular little life. As an 18-year-old who can't afford to go to university, and I couldn't go to Wisconsin anymore because my parents had moved out of state, which made it a mess for me. So I decided I was working, and every day that I would go into work, it was in a lab with a bunch of research scientists. Every day they would go to me, are you going to go back to university? You have to go back to university. You must go to university. And I said, yes, I will. It's in the plan. I just can't go now because I cannot afford out of state. I have to be in state. I have to work. I have to have a regular life before I can apply. So after a while, I had my residency back for Wisconsin, and then I applied for university and started back again at university. And since I was paying for most of it at that point, because I was working at this job, my parent, and I had already decided I wasn't going to be a doctor. I'm like, forget that. If I'm paying for this, I'm going to do something that I find really interesting. And I've always been fascinated by the way that the world works. And so I decided to take a lot of political science classes, and I love art, as you can tell from what I've been talking about on this blog. So I studied art history. And so I said, whatever class I get the better grade in is the one that I will major in. And so my report card came from the first semester, and it was exactly the same grade. I'm like, oh, okay, that means I need to double major. So instead of like picking a different major or just picking between those two majors, I just plowed ahead and did both. And unfortunately, neither major had anything that overlapped. So there was I didn't get to take a lot of courses outside of my major. I had to basically take all art history, and political science. And for me, in my life, that has been an awesome combination. Okay. So I just crammed through school as fast as I could, and I took every summer semester so I could catch up with my year, so that I would graduate the same time as my friends. And that was just, I didn't have to do that. It's just that my personality back then was a little bit more, well, I'm still like that, driven. I'm like, I need to get things done. I want to get it done. I want to get accomplished. I'm like, I see my goal and I like just go for it. Yeah, so that was my undergraduate, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed going to the University of Wisconsin. I found it was really, I liked my professors, and I told you before, I'm very much an introvert. So it's not as if I sat there and was partying or anything like that. I really focused on my work, and I didn't have a lot of free time because I was working. So I was working and studying, and that's about it, and doing sports because I like doing sports. So that was my life at university. Then I decided I was going to go to law school, and the reason that I decided to go to law school is because my sister was murdered. And between what happened to my sister and what happened to my father as an entrepreneur, because he had a lot of things that happened, and I couldn't figure out why did that happen, because it didn't make any sense. Like, it wasn't logical when they go to court and do things. Sometimes it doesn't seem logical. So I'm like, I want to know why. So I decided I needed to go to law school, and I'm like, because I needed to have those answers. It had nothing to do with I want to be a lawyer and whatever. I just wanted the answer. So I went to law school, and I applied to law schools. And what I did is I went to my advisor first, and my advisor was like, oh, what a really nice law school is this one. And she said a law school, and I was like, oh, what? And I looked at it, I'm like, there's absolutely no way that's the best law school that I can get into. But then it made me worried, because I'm like, what law school would I get into? So I applied to like 15 or 20 law schools, and I did it in a range of like, this is like a dream school if I can get in there, which was William & Mary, and like, that would be awesome if I can get in there, because they have these little cubicles for each student. It's really a cool school. Like, oh, that would be my dream school. And then I had the safety school that no matter what, I would be able to get in there. And so I applied to all these schools, and I wrote my essays and all that stuff. I applied to all of that, took the LSAT, and blah, 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 did okay on that. And then I just, waited for all that stuff to come back. And then I got into like a lot of law schools. So then I had to figure out what the heck to do, because I had all these law schools that I got into. And my parents, I was accepted to and decided to go to Yeshiva, which is in New York City. And I was going to go to New York City for law school, and my parents just went crazy because they'd already lost one daughter. And they're like, oh my God, our daughter's going to be murdered in New York. And our next daughter. And so they just didn't want to lose two daughters to crime. And I'm like, okay, I won't live in New York City right now. I'm like, where do you want me to go? Where would you like me to go to school? I have these options where I can go, and I understand your argument, and I was like 20 at that point. I'm like, so where would you like me to go to grad school? And my parents, were living in Florida at the time, and I'm like, okay, I'll go to school. They go, we will give you, if you don't go to New York City, we will give you a car. And I thought, oh, if I don't go to New York City, I can have a car. And but at that point, I'm like, okay, I will go to a school. You give me a car. I will go to a school that's close enough to you so that you can come visit me, and you can feel safe. I'll go someplace that's a very safe little town. So that is why I chose to study what I studied, and why I went to the schools that I went to. It's just life, the way life goes.